Welcome to Spectrum News at 4, coming to you live from Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Let's take a look at the top stories. Federal government enforces no work, no pay on striking ASU members. Reps seek energy reform as Abbas declares Petroleum Week open. Plus, released hostages reuniting with families as Israel begins releasing Palestinian detainees. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more in just a moment. Good afternoon. Many thanks for joining us on the news at this hour. We begin the news from the national scene where the federal government has directed vice chancellors of federal universities across the country to strictly enforce the no work, no pay policy against members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities currently participating in the ongoing nationwide strike. The directive was contained in a circular dated October 13, 2025 and signed by the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. The circular was copied to the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Permanent Secretary of Education, Pro-Chancellors of all federal universities, Director General of the Budget Office of the Federation, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the Executive Secretary of the National Universities Commission. According to the circular, the Federal Ministry of Education expressed dissatisfaction over reports of the continued industrial action by ASU despite repeated calls for dialogue, stressing that government would no longer tolerate non-compliance with extant labor laws. Meanwhile, 21,000 Nigerians affected by flood disasters across the country ought to benefit from a federal government interest-free loan totaling 6.3 trillion, 6.3 billion naira. The Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Yusuf Sanunu, disclosed this today at a roundtable event to mark this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction in Abuja. The event had in attendance Vice President Kashim Shettima, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives Benjamin Kalu, Governor Dawood Lawal of Zamfara State, lawmakers and international partners, among others. Sununu said the intervention is to mitigate the impact of flooding in the country and address its consequences on food security. He also disclosed that the federal government has also reached 8.1 million households with over 300 billion naira through the Conditional Cash Transfer Scheme. Away from that, the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority (NCAA) has warned domestic airlines to stop informing passengers that ticket refunds take 4 weeks, saying such claims conflict with the regulator's rules, which set a 14-day refund deadline. This is as the agency urged passengers who received 4-week refund promises to forward the communications to NCAA officials for investigation. The NCAA's Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection, Michael Achimugu, made the admonition in a statement via X today. The reminder comes amid mounting passenger complaints about delayed refunds following cancellations and disruptions. The NCAA has in recent months said it would sanction airlines that fail to process refunds within the time frame set out in its regulations, describing timely refunds as a low-hanging fruit that airlines should prioritize. From the Green Chambers now, where the House of Representatives has renewed its commitment to full energy reform, urging the federal government and relevant stakeholders to overhaul the nation's downstream petroleum sector to achieve efficiency in the sector. Speaking today at the first annual Downstream Petroleum Week, organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Downstream, the Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, said the energy sector holds the key to unlocking the nation's economic growth and called for concerted efforts to reposition the entire industry. The conference, held in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, brought together professionals, regulatory agencies, and industry leaders, including representatives of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Dangote Group. In a separate development, the Department of State Services (DSS) has cautioned the public against dealing with one Victor Onyedikachi Godwin, a dismissed officer allegedly using the agency's name to defraud unsuspecting individuals. In a statement issued today, the DSS said Godwin was sacked from the service but has continued to parade himself as a serving officer while engaging in fraudulent activities. According to the statement, the former staff has been using the name of the DSS to extort money from members of the public under various pretenses. The DSS urged Nigerians to avoid any dealings with Godwin or anyone claiming association with him. It advised that all legitimate requests, inquiries, or complaints should be directed to the service through its official contact channels. We move now to Africa, where President Brice Oligui Nguema's Democratic Union of Builders (UDB) has secured a much-needed majority, results indicated after a second round of the parliamentary votes. The party was on a course to win. According to National Electoral Body, the run-off vote was conducted in only 77 constituencies where no candidate won an absolute majority. The exercise concludes a political transition after an August 2023 coup by Nguema ended 55 years of the Bongo family rule over oil-rich Gabon. Still in Africa, Cameroonians have voted in an election that could see Africa's oldest leader, Paul Biya, extend his rule by another 7 years. Voters in Cameroon went to the polls yesterday in a presidential election that is expected to see 92-year-old Biya extend his 42-year rule for another 7 years. If victorious, President Biya would be 99 years old by the end of his new term, continuing his reign in a nation grappling with profound security and economic challenges. Political experts anticipate a win for Biya, who cast his ballot amid tight security at a primary school in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. And on the foreign scene, the Israeli military has confirmed that the last 20 living hostages held by Hamas in Gaza are now back in Israel after more than 2 years' captivity. The hostages were kidnapped by Hamas during the 7 October attacks in 2023. They include twin brothers Ziv and Gali Berman, who were pictured together in Gaza today. It said the remains of a further 28 deceased hostages are yet to be handed over. In exchange for the hostages, Israel is releasing 250 Palestinian prisoners and more than 1,700 detainees as the first batch have left Israel prisons. Still on the foreign scene, China's government has said that Donald Trump's latest threat to impose an additional 100% tariff on Chinese goods is a typical example of U.S. double standards. A Commerce Ministry spokesperson also said China could introduce its own unspecified countermeasures if the U.S. president carries out his threat, adding it was not afraid of a possible trade war. Recall that on Friday, Trump hit back at Beijing's move to tighten its rules for rare earths exports, accusing it of becoming very hostile and trying to hold the world captive. He also threatened to pull out of a meeting with China's President Xi Jinping later this month. Still to come in the news. England striker Watkins out of England squad to face Latvia. Stay tuned for details of these and more in a moment. Oh, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now we conclude the rest of our news stories. On our business news, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, has announced plans by the federal government to establish a new pre-shipment inspection agency for the solid minerals sector as part of ongoing efforts to plug leakages and boost revenue generation. Alake disclosed this at a pre-event press briefing ahead of the 10th edition of the Nigeria Mining Week, scheduled to be held from October 13 to 15, 2025 in Abuja, where he explained that the new framework forms part of a broader regulatory and policy initiative aimed at blocking financial leakages and ensuring accountability within the sector. According to the minister, the move aligns with President Bola Tinubu's economic reform agenda to enhance non-oil revenue, strengthen fiscal discipline, and reposition the mining industry as a major contributor to the country's GDP. Alaka explained that plugging leakages remains one of the most effective short-term measures to increase government revenue without necessarily introducing new taxes. Still talking business, data from the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) has revealed that riding on the back of improved liquidity, the naira rose at the official market last week, climbing by a 0.72% to close at 1,455 per dollar. At the parallel market, the naira strengthened 0.88% to 1,475 per dollar. The leap was the strongest attained by the currency since December 2024. And on health news, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) is partnering with the Nigerian Natural Medicine Development Agency (NNMDA) to develop scientifically proven, safe and effective herbal medicines that meet international standards through properly designed clinical trials. In a statement signed by NAFDAC's media consultant, Sayo Akintola, and the Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, revealed that Nigerian herbal medicine practitioners possess the capacity to formulate safe and effective indigenous natural remedies comparable to international standards. She, however, emphasized the need for scientific validation through clinical research to ensure the safety and efficacy of such products. According to the World Health Organization, up to 80% of Africa's population relies on herbal remedies for primary health care. NAFDAC's initiative aims to bridge the gap by ensuring that local herbal products are not only effective but also meet global scientific and regulatory benchmarks. Still in health, as the world marks World Arthritis Day, Dr. Chinonso Egemba, popularly known as Apricot Doctor, has raised awareness about the often overlooked impact of arthritis on young Nigerians. In a series of posts via X, Agimba emphasized that arthritis is not merely a sign of old age but a condition threatening the dreams of young footballers, dancers, and entrepreneurs across the country. The medical professional referenced the 2025 World Arthritis Day global theme to urge people with rheumatic diseases to pursue their personal aspirations despite their condition. And we move now to sports, where England striker Ollie Watkins will miss the World Cup qualifier in Latvia on Tuesday because of injury. The 29-year-old was replaced at halftime of the Three Lions' 3-0 win against Wales on Thursday. Watkins scored his side's second goal at Wembley but collided with the post late in the first half after missing a chance. England boss Thomas Tuchel said afterwards that the Aston Villa forward was okay, but the injury needs medical examination. Still in sports, former Arsenal and England midfielder Jack Wilshere has been named manager of League One side Luton Town. The 33-year-old succeeds Matt Bloomfield, who was sacked earlier this month, having spent less than a year in charge at Kenilworth Road. It is Wilshere's first full-time managerial role, taking over a Luton side 11th in the third tier following back-to-back relegations. He beats Leyton Orient boss Richie Wellens to the role and is believed to have signed a 3-year deal. On our entertainment news, popular Nigerian singer Timi Dakolo has called out Ortega Ogra, the Senior Special Assistant SSA to President Bola Tinubu on digital engagement, strategy and new media, for refusing to pay him. Timi Dakolo met the call Sunday evening in a post on X. Tagging Ortega in the post, the singer accused him of ignoring his calls. While begging him to pick up his calls, Dakolo noted that he had done his own part of the deal. The musician did not disclose the details of the job and the amount involved. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on all our social media handles and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Good afternoon.